This is Champagne Confidential,
where real conversations meet real life.
We're a therapist
And a lawyer.
And longtime friends
who are not afraid to talk about the things most people avoid.
We're talking motherhood,
relationships,
work, pressure, and boundaries.
Hard conversations.
The kind you usually only have after hours.
No scripts.
No filters.
Just honest conversations.
So grab a glass. You're invited into the conversation.
When you turn 40, you feel like you're over the hill, but you're not. You're reaching your peak.
I had like a checklist in my own head of just what I thought 30 would look like, but it took some detours.
I don't think people give themselves enough credit for what they're doing when they're in their 30s until they're out. And they look back and they think to themselves, wow, I did a lot. And I don't know that I could do all that now.
Well, today we're going to talk about turning 40 and the milestones that come with it. Cheers, Val.
Cheers.
To 40 plus. Right? I know you mentioned before just a little bit about how turning 40 can bring on worry or anxiety for people, and just kind of looking at it from a different perspective. And I love what you were just sharing with me before we went on here, just about, share that little quote you had about, reaching your peak.
40 is... When you turn 40, you feel like you're over the hill, but you're not. You're reaching your peak.
I love that.
I feel like the quote was a little bit more eloquent than the way that I said it, but it definitely resonates, right? Because I feel like when I turned 30, I felt it. I felt the age. Not that 30 is old by any stretch of the means, but don't you feel like I had a lot of expectations for myself when I turned 30, right? Professionally, family. I wanted a family. I feel like there were almost defining moments that I needed to check off in order to feel like I had accomplished something when I turned 30. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I had like a checklist in my own head of just what I thought 30 would look like and what I needed to do by the time I turned 30. When in reality, I feel like my checklist sort of kind of went as I thought, but it took some detours. And then when I was like in my 30s, I felt like I was so consumed by family, which was a great thing. But it was just like, I was changing diapers and I was trying to like manage life as a mom with a career and trying to kind of balance everything. That it was a super chaotic kind of time that I wasn't really present through it.
You know what? It's funny because I work with some people who are in that stage of their life. And I look at them, and we were talking about the one word that describes you in the office the other day. And one of the women in the office said the word to describe her is just getting by, surviving. She called herself a survivor. She said surviving. And I thought it was funny because that's a great answer for someone who is working and raising a family, and their kids are little, and they're doing baths at night and doing homework and packing lunches and making sure everything's going correctly, right? I almost feel like you're a people pleaser in your 30s, right? Like you're trying to take care of everybody. You're trying to take care of your family, and then you're trying to take care of the layers of people too. I feel like at that time, I was a little more concerned about, is our extended family happy with us, right? We get a free Sunday, and I felt like we had to have dinner with them. Or I felt like, am I making the right friends? Do I have enough friends? Are the kids making friends? And I don't know that I was making myself happy. I wasn't unhappy, but I was more concerned with everybody else.
So true. I always call myself, like, in my 40s, I'm like a recovering people pleaser because I was so caught up with that, even in my 20s, just trying to make everybody happy around me and sacrificing myself in the process. Like my needs were last. I was not finding joy in a lot of the things that I typically found joy in because I was just, like your friend mentioned, like surviving through those crucial years.
And do you feel like you even had an identity other than...
No, not really.
A mom, a wife?
I remember when my kids were like infants, which was my early 30s, I was like, we called it the dark ages because Bill and I never, my husband, we never talked. We barely saw each other. And it was just a matter of getting through it. Like, how can we just like put our heads down and kind of get through it? And then there were moments where like you want to be present with your kids because it's such a beautiful age, but you're so kind of caught up in all of the things that you should be doing or that you shouldn't be doing that you don't really have time to be present, right?
Right. I feel like I look back on old videos and photos, and in the photos, I'm on the ground, I'm with the kids, we're playing, and it's great, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't
You don't even
I know
remember.
I was there,
Yeah.
but and thank goodness I have the videos and photo to prove it, but I can't remember it, right?
So true.
It's so funny. And I think, those times were some of the best times of our life, and they've definitely shaped the kids and who they are today, and they're so wonderful. But it's a unique period in your life because I'm also looking back at the kids and thinking, wow, they're so cute. I miss them. I love that age. And then I'm looking at myself and I'm like, that woman looks
Tired.
haggard.
It's so true. Or like, I'll be like, watch, even, and then on like a positive side of it, I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, I was so critical of myself
Right.
during those periods of like, I'm not around them enough. I'm not doing enough. Was I patient enough? Was I calm? Like, I feel like, was I screaming all the time? Like all these things. And then I watch these videos and I'm like, oh, she wasn't so bad.
I'm like, you're
She was
laughing,
actually really nice.
having a great time. The kids are happy. Everybody's happy. It's just,
Right.
it's a really crazy time. And I mean, I know for the both of us, we both raised kids pretty close in age,
Yeah.
and I feel like that, you're like in the trenches, right? Like you're doing bath time, you're feeding, you're cooking, there's just so much that comes along with coming home to kids after a long day's work and wanting to do it all because, as a mother, you just do. You want to be present for everything. And it's a crazy time in your life, which is why I think once you get past that stage and move on to your 40s, it's almost like the golden years.
Yeah, it's like a
Right?
breath, right? Like you
Yeah.
get a breath. I feel like, just kind of all the things that I would lean on for like pleasure in my 30s were like eating,
Right.
drinking, like having some wine here and there, like
Right.
just like almost like numbing things
Yeah.
that, weren't necessarily healthy or weren't really great for me, but were just like the little things that I could do to kind of survive through it, like not the best coping mechanisms, I guess you'd say. And then in my 40s, it was almost like this enlightenment of like, oh, wait a minute. I don't feel better when I'm doing, as we sit here sipping our champagne. But, it was just a different perspective, right? It was
Definitely.
just like trying to look at it, as it was almost like my reward at the end of a night would be a glass of wine or, a piece of cheesecake or something, to try, kind of just survive through it and feel
Yeah.
some sort of joy at the end.
Like we
And
made
I
it.
know I'm like making that like parenthood sound so awful, but like it's not that that was the norm every day, but it was just like the monotony of just kind of getting through the moments and having to live your life really for these little people,
And you
right?
have to. And I also think, right, I agree with you. I'm looking at my 30s as a whole, right? Because I had my first child when I was 30. And I would not change a thing. I mean, literally the best thing I've ever done in my entire life, or most of the best things I've ever done in my entire life, I did in my 30s. And I love every second of it. But when I think of it as a whole, I think it was definitely, I don't think people give themselves enough credit for what they're doing when they're in their 30s until they're out and they look back and they think to themselves, wow, I did a lot. And I don't know that I could do all of that now.
Right.
Right? Like I feel like 30-year-old me was really, really energetic.
Ambitious.
And, ambitious.
It's true. Yeah.
And now, crossing that hump because once you hit 40 again, I feel like, for you, we ran the marathon when you turned 40 to bring it back, but cheers.
Yes.
I think, you turn 40 and you naturally think to yourself, how am I? Am I healthy? Am I looking older? Are my kids happy? How's my career doing? Am I where I want to be? And I think a lot of people are nervous when they turn 40 and they feel old, right? Which is also crazy because again, 40 is not old. But I think it's been, the best years of my life for a lot of reasons. You mentioned pleasure, right? What do you do for pleasure? I feel like at night when I come home, I'm either on the tread, after talking to the kids about their day, which I enjoy now because they're people, right? Like having dinner with them, talking to them, hearing about their day. And then everyone kind of goes off and I'm on the treadmill or I'm doing a mask in bed.
Yeah.
I love that. I love just my routine.
Yeah,
Watching
everybody's a little
TV.
bit more self-sufficient. You don't need to be
Yes.
on everyone as much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And although like those ages were beautiful in their own way, and, again, we kind of just like moved through them, now you can look back on it and reflect positively in your 40s. Whereas like when you're in it, it's a little harder to see those glimmers of like, moments of joy and things that have happened through your kids' eyes. You're so focused on, am I doing this right? Am I following, how I'm supposed to script that we think parenthood is at that time in our lives, So I feel like there's freedom in that too, just
Right.
being able to feel more secure, I guess, in your parenting or
Yeah.
and your kids are gaining a little bit of freedom, which is so nice. Like I love now that I can choose a date night whenever I want. It's not contingent on a babysitter. Like I'm able to have that freedom, which is so important.
Yeah.
There would be weeks we would go without date nights or time together. I mean, we tried to prioritize it, but it's not as easy,
Right.
when your kids are younger. So I feel like that's it's a bittersweet type thing, as they grow. But I feel like just being able to have the moment of reflection in your 40s of appreciating it makes it even better.
Yeah. Something else I realized too, I feel like I'm more secure in relationships, right? Like, don't you feel like in your 30s, it was a little more of navigating, right? You were meeting people for the first time, you're meeting your children's friends, parents, and, you're just kind of, I feel like it's more about quality now than
Yes.
quantity. I have relationships with people that are meaningful to me, right? We have such limited time. And most of our time, even though our kids are more self-sufficient, I do feel like most of my time is directed towards their needs, right?
Yeah.
Taking them where they need to go, being there for their sporting events, school events, whatever they need. That when I do take the time to spend it with friends or family, I'm doing that with the people that I really feel are worth my time, right? And I think there's a lot of security in that. It's you trust the relationships that you have, and it just feels good,
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of I feel like it's like you just don't give a shit phase of life, right? Like it's like I'm going to do what works for me, what works for my family.
Sure.
And like you mentioned, like the people pleasing, it's like I do things for people because I want to,
Right.
not because I feel obligated to. And I feel like there's a big shift there that happens where it's like, okay, I'm naturally someone that loves to help, but I would put myself out in ways to help that wasn't always the best. And I would
Right.
burn myself out or get sick or have like, just be completely exhausted trying to, do the right thing all the time. And in reality, it's like now I'm in this phase where it's like, no, if I'm going to do something, I'm doing it because I genuinely care about you and I want to be here and I want to help. It might put me out a little bit, but I'm not going to resent you after because I chose that. I want to be here for you. It's like a little bit of a shift that happened for me where it was like, I'm not going to be doing this anymore for just to be liked or to think that I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing it because I want to do it.
Sure. Like on a night, if you're going out, you're asked to do something, you're asked to go to dinner, and maybe a week ago it sounded great, and as it gets closer, you're exhausted and you can't make it. I think the 30-year-old me would have been a little more apt to just say, I have to do it, right? They'll be upset with me if I don't. The 40-year-old me says, I just don't care, right? If I need to do this, I'm tired, I want to stay home. And if the person that I'm supposed to be with isn't okay with that, then
Right.
that's odd, right? So it's not a good relationship in my opinion. So I think that also, definitely being a little more selfish and, respecting other people for that too.
Right.
Right. I feel like knowing that people's choices to do things, not to do things, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with they're just kind of taking care of themselves and living their own life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And prioritizing their needs. And I think, if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're constantly having someone that's not prioritizing you, then you're able to evaluate that and be like, maybe this relationship isn't what I thought it was, or maybe it's not, this person's not meant to be in my life for a reason, or I need to pull back a little bit and not be making them such a priority when they're not doing that for me so much, So I feel like there's like that balance of like, okay, yes, honoring your own needs and being able to respect that. But then on the other hand, being able to kind of pick out when someone's just not caring, right? Like there's a difference. And I think that's something too, where I would maybe try in the past to like, encourage friendships that weren't necessarily reciprocated back, and being able to let go of it now a lot easier, and just being like, that friendship was not meant for me. Like
the 40s are about cutting the fat, right? The people who aren't serving you or who aren't really good for you, maybe you're not good for them either, right? It's about you gotta chop. Let that go.
Right.
Let all of that go. I also think, what about professionally? How do you feel like you have changed in your 30s to 40s now?
It's funny. I just read something that said that it's most common for entrepreneurs to start their businesses at 45.
I saw that too.
Did you? That's funny. We must be on like an algorithm or something.
Instagram,
Yeah. But honestly, I mean, if that's true, I think there's so much to say about that, because I feel like that's because you are in a place where you can make decisions for yourself, and maybe you're able to prioritize yourself a little bit more in your 40s. And again, the security piece, right? You're feeling a little bit more confident. You have this like wisdom about you a little bit from your experiences up to this point. So I feel like if that's not hope for your 40s, right? It's like just because I hear this a lot, in my work and just friends that experience this, where it's like, oh my gosh, I had all these plans to do these things, like kind of like what we were talking about in our 30s, like this checklist of things I wanted to accomplish by 40, and I didn't do any of them. And now it's too late. And now, I'm going to wallow in that and just feel really bad about it. Or like, look at it as opportunity. You're halfway. I mean, hopefully more than halfway you have left of your life, right? Like there's so much left. So looking at it as, you have this wisdom, this knowledge for your future, and not necessarily seeing it as like stifling, seeing it as an opportunity. It's, there's so much more that you can do. It doesn't mean it's over.
Definitely. I actually think it's really hard to do what we did in our 30s. I think that I did my best with my business, but I know that even just in my field, I think I looked very young, and maybe it wasn't always taken seriously in the beginning because my clients were older, and I don't know that seeing someone so young or how they thought was so young, I don't know that they were completely confident, where I feel like now, I definitely look older. So clients are a little more comfortable when it comes to knowing, okay, she's been in business for 20 years. This is somebody that I can trust and be confident with. And I think with that, there's also something to be said for that, right? Naturally people think that someone who's older has more wisdom. And I just think that I do. I feel that, I feel like a more confident business owner. It's not always about the clients finding me. It's also about me getting to choose who I want to work with, right? Like any other relationship, is this a good match for me? And being a little more confident with the work that I do choose to take on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you look very young, by the way. Thanks. So I'm not going to.
Well, piggybacking on that, I think we take a little more care of ourselves in our 40s too. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But I feel like, it's so much you could come down to your looks of like, oh, you look young, you don't, but there's a presence that happens in your 40s of like, I was just at our chamber meeting the other night, and I was sitting at this table with, an older couple, and the husband I had gone up to one of the people that worked there or whatever, and I was kind of engaging in conversation, and he like acknowledged it, and he was like, wow, that was like really great that you approached that woman and like took the initiative to pitch your business, because naturally I work with a lot of younger people, we see teens, we see kids, and now we have this like new niche of working with older people and aging parents. And I was like, oh, okay. So he kind of recognized the confidence I had coming into that. Whereas like, if that were 10 years ago, I
Right.
probably wouldn't have approached that woman. I probably would have been a little bit insecure. Like they all knew each other. I didn't know them, you know? So it's like interesting how the dynamic
Yeah.
shifts a little bit, and your presence is just, it's just a different energy I think you bring to
Yeah.
40, right? Where you're just a little bit more sure of, or you just don't care as much to think like, okay, well, if this doesn't go well, so what?
Right.
If
Right.
this woman says, yeah, I don't know anything, I can't help you, okay, great. And then we move on. But,
Right.
Younger me would have probably been overanalyzing that conversation, thinking a lot about it. And now I'm just kind of like, take your shot, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to impact me either way. I hope something comes out of it, but it's not
Right.
going to make me think about it while I'm going to bed at night. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I feel like just having that level of confidence to approach situations has been a big shift for me.
Yeah.
Professionally, especially, you know?
I do agree. I think it's so easy. It's easier to be confident at this stage in life, right? You feel like not that I feel like I'm always doing everything and I have everything right, but I feel more confident in the choices that I make because I feel like I know who I am. I read something the other day and it said, no one is really, you can be whoever you want at any stage in your life. So, you feel like you know yourself so well now and you know who you are, you know your likes, your dislikes. But the reality is if you shifted gears and said, I want to be a chef, you could do it at any stage in your life, and it's kind of interesting and putting it in perspective like that, like, yeah, before 30, I didn't consider myself a runner, but now I do.
Right.
So you can do anything and
do
be
anything.
anyone.
It's so true. I have that. Yeah. I used to always have like a certain like a limiting belief about just like scarcity or like what was available. And I feel like that's been a big shift too, of just no longer feeling like things are impossible. It's like, okay, well, how am I going to do it? I can do anything. Like I don't,
Yeah.
but it's just like,
It's a very empowering episode.
I could do anything. But really, I feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, especially, we've hit so many milestones in our friendship.
Yeah.
Like between, doing the marathon was something I remember telling you, like, I have never been an athlete in my entire life. So, being 40 and being able to say I'm finally an athlete after all these years is like
Right.
a crazy concept. So I feel like if I can be an athlete at 40, people can start businesses. People can do anything. You can do anything. So it's just a matter of kind of having that open mindset that it's not over. It doesn't mean
It's only just begun.
It's only just begun.
I'm going to throw a quote at you. Tell me if you know who said it.
Okay.
It's kind of fun to do the impossible.
It must be Walt Disney.
It is Walt Disney. And honestly, it's so true, right? Like nothing's impossible. I feel like we spend all of our lives telling our kids, hearing from our parents, right? You can do anything. You can be anyone. You can do, and then telling our kids, you can do anything you want. You want to be a basketball player and, you can do it. Just, you have to work at it, right? And it's so true. And I think that's such a beautiful thing about life. And I feel like I maybe look at my 40s through like rose-colored glasses, but I really am enjoying all of it.
Yeah. I feel like kind of talking about the rose-colored glasses, it's like the time itself is looked at differently. Like we were talking a little bit about this the other day, just how you look at your kids and you sort of stare at them.
Weirdly.
It sounds weird.
Awkwardly.
Yeah, my son's always like, what are you looking at? I'm like, I'm just in awe of you.
Yeah.
Like I'm in awe. I was telling you how like, my son is standing in the in the refrigerator. He's got no shirt on, like armpit hair. And I'm like, taller than me.
Who let you in?
Right. I'm like, who is this man in my kitchen? Like there's such and I'm admiring him. Like I'm like, and my husband's looking at him and we're just like, this is our little boy that used to like run around the house. And now he's a full-fledged man. Like it's just such a shift of like being able to recognize the present and holding on to it, holding on to think that there's like 4 more years before he's in college. Yeah. Right? It's just like, it's a crazy, crazy concept. You feel like you're going to have them forever. And then, you turn around and they're little men and it's like, but again, I think because things are slower, you have that opportunity to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
you know?
I agree with that. I think, and maybe we're lucky because I don't know that everybody actually takes the time to sit back and actually reflect like that. So anyone listening in, make sure you do.
Tip.
Make sure you do. Because I know, when the kids are little, everyone tells you time flies.
Oh, yeah.
I would do anything to be back in your shoes. And I too say that to people with little children. But I think now I really live it. And, I look at the kids and I spend the time with them. And it's really hard to do that in the age and era of social media and phones, right? We never turn off our phones. I am on the clock 24 hours a day. I can answer emails at 3 a.m.
I know.
You really have to make sure that you just set aside the time and say, okay, you know what? They want to talk to me about a project they're doing in school or something that happened at school. I want to hear it. I want to listen to it. I want to, put them to sleep and make sure that I spend that time with them. There's, take in every single moment because it does go fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a gift to really be able to self-reflect and recognize that and spend that extra time with them. And I think, we definitely have the ability to do that now because they need us a little less.
Yeah, they do. But and that's the goal, right? Like you want them to develop into these independent people that can, take care of themselves at some point. And that's, our job as parents to guide them. And I feel like at this point in the game, it's about, trying to really appreciate where they are and not rush it along. And I feel like it's very easy to fall into that where it's, okay, this is so hard or they're experiencing this struggle or whatever the case may be and trying to kind of just slow it down a bit. Take the vacation, take the time with them, appreciate the little things. If it's a Saturday and they want to sit around you, like Bill and I always recognize that of like, we'll have coffee time together on a Saturday or a Sunday morning. And our kids always want to be a part of it. And it's always funny because we're like, oh, like part of us is, okay, well, we just want to be able to have a conversation. And then the other part of us is like, wait a minute, isn't that a beautiful gift that they want to actually sit here with us and be a part of our conversation? Like we've created this environment that they actually want to sit with us and chat, so it's like, and then in those moments being able to say, okay, you know what, we'll get our chat, we'll get our time, we can figure it out, we can do our date night, we can talk when they get bored of us and it, it'll happen.
There's plenty of time.
Right. Let's just be in this moment right now and appreciate this moment. I feel like that the time slowing down a little bit is really a gift in your 40s for sure.
Well, the other day I was on break and I got stuck in Grand Cayman and most people are like, that's fabulous. That sounds great, right? Our flights were canceled because of the snowstorm. Initially, and by the way, I was with a group and the group left Saturday. My plan was to leave Sunday and I did that just to get the extra day with my kids, right? And I thought, this will be nice. We'll have one day where we spend the whole day. The evening, we'll have a nice dinner. We'll leave late Sunday. Our flight's canceled. So now my one day turns into multiple days. And at first, everybody's nervous. I have to worry about my office. The kids have to worry about school. My husband has to worry about his office. And after the first day and kind of getting over that, let me tell you, I look back on those few days, and it was maybe the biggest gift I've been given this year because it was just the 5 of us spending time together, laughing, playing cards. I mean, it was nothing, obviously we explored the island and had a great time, but just the simple moments, we had no plans. We let them pick where we went for dinner. It was great.
Nice.
And those are memories that you really can't take for granted. You just have to embrace the moments, and live for the time that you're given, I guess.
I think I said that to you, that like, what a gift that you were given, right? Like to be in this position to have time with your family like that. You needed it.
Yeah, I guess. And, what's meant to be is meant to be. And it worked out wonderfully, And I do think that even with just life in general, we're such a driven society, especially here in New York, Long Island, right? Like everything is so fast and fast paced and we're so concerned about getting to the next level, even with our kids, right? From a sports standpoint, academically, we're always thinking about the next level. What can they do? That like sometimes it's nice to just take a step back and think, well, maybe we just say no to that and, do nothing as a family or opt not to attend this event or maybe say we have a family event and now we're not going to go to that game. I think it's about making choices that in the long run are really going to be beneficial to you as a family and also to your kids and teach them the right way. I think your 40s are about perspective. That's another good word to describe it all.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. I think, we were talking a little bit before about like eating cheesecake and like kidding around about stuff related to like, prioritizing our self-care. But I do think that there's a special place in 40 for self-care and also like body changes. I hate to talk about, I don't hate to talk about it. I think it's important to talk about because I feel like, and I'm not going to spin this in a negative way because I think for me, it was like a real learning thing that not many people talk about, especially our parents maybe, because, my mom, my grandma, these were not things people talked about in their 40s about like what happens to your body. I think I need another glass for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess also to embracing those changes, right? Like, I hear you. Nobody ever said to me, your jeans that fit you, even if you're the same size, the jeans that fit you when you were, 25, they're never going to fit you again. You're right. That's never happening. You could work out, you could eat right, you could do whatever you want. It's never happening. So I feel like it's a good idea to clear out your closet, in your 40s, because there are definitely some things that you're just never getting back. And not in a bad,
right.
Not necessarily in a bad way.
Yeah.
Things just
change.
Things fit different.
Yeah. For me, like, I don't know if you remember this, but I think we were doing the marathon. And it was like, for me, my body like literally changed the moment I turned 40. It was very weird. Yeah. I had, not to get too graphic, but I had like a full-on rash for the race. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And I thought I had, I was told I had shingles before the race. So I was being treated for shingles. I thought this entire, for like a month. And we moved into the race and I had still a full rash, like all on my neck, my chest. I was itching like crazy. And it was as if like my skin was crawling. And then I came back and I was still trying to figure out what was going on. And, then I went to a dermatologist and the dermatologist was like, this is definitely not shingles. And I had no idea. I was kind of coming at it from, okay, well, what could it be? Maybe it's something I'm using, some sort of, I had every allergy test under the sun. Everything came back negative. They were telling me it could be, I have a gluten allergy. They're telling me it could be from the gluten. I had no idea. I wasn't eating any gluten at the time. I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And then I started getting blood work and going through like all these different things. Mm-hmm. And my gynecologist did like a full blood work panel. And she's like, you seem to have like very low progesterone. And it was the first time I had ever heard this. And she's like, this could be causing the rash. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes some sense. And then as a little bit of time went on, she's mentioning that, I had over the last couple of years, like a couple of minor procedures that were definitely related to the progesterone as we're learning, right? So it was like this whole door opened around what's really going on. And then she puts me on hormone replacement. I don't know if I told you this. Yeah. And I've been doing...
I'm so interested in that, by the way.
Yes, I'm very knowledgeable in it now. I know so much about it. And what was so fascinating was like, I'm fairly young to be going through perimenopause, but it was determined that that's what I'm going through. And then after conversations with my mother had the same things going on, was never prescribed progesterone. She was told it would increase like bone loss if she didn't take it, but she was kind of scared to take it because at the time they were saying that, progesterone could cause cancer. And so she kind of erred on the side of caution and now has osteoporosis as a result of having low progesterone in her 40s.
Oh, wow.
So it's like all these things come out and I'm like, debating what to do. Do I go on it? Do I not? And then when I hear this from my mom, I'm like, this is kind of a no-brainer. Like so much has developed, so much information is out there. And I was literally experiencing like very classic perimenopause symptoms. Like I had insomnia. I was experiencing anxiety at night, like before bed. I was finding myself exhausted during the day, like super, like when I tell you I was like a narcoleptic, like I could fall asleep at the table. It was like a major shift at 40. I had this rash. I'm like trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And then I get on the hormone replacement and it was like game changer. It was like my life came back. I was myself. I had energy. And I'm also taking estrogen too. It's like a patch and I take the pill. And it was just such an opening of like, okay, so here's this little bit of a hurdle I have to experience. I was gaining weight too. That was the other thing. And so it like helped with weight loss. It helped with evening out my emotions. It helped with sleep. I mean, it was like across the board, such a great thing. I mean, I've only been on it since September. Now we're in March. So it's not, tremendously long period of time, but I really feel like that was so helpful in just kind of opening up my eyes to a different perspective and not looking at it like, okay, well, 40 is just going to mean everything's downhill.
Frumpy for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just kind of was like this shift that I needed to be able to say, okay, let me just explore these options and open my eyes a little bit to what's out there and what's going on and to recognize, like I kept saying to my husband, like something's off and I don't know what it is. Something's not right and I'm not sure what it is. And as I researched more, that's what every woman goes to their doctor saying, that they feel like something's off and they're not sure what it is. And it turns out to be the hormone levels.
That's so interesting because I mean, I feel like we need to talk about this more offline here. But it's interesting because I have never been someone to even go to the doctor, right? Like I would go to Stat Health if I have a fever or, if something's wrong. This is the first year that I made a conscious effort to say, all right, I need to look at my health. So not only am I going to just exercise and, try to gain some bone density. Women over 40 have to lift heavy weights. I invested in one of those like weighted vests and made sure that I go to Pilates all the time and try to eat more protein and do all the things that we're told to do once you turn 40. But I think even just being more conscious of your health, making sure that you have your mammograms, making sure that, I have a doctor now who just, did kind of like a baseline for me so that if there is something wrong, she knows me now, right? Like I had a full body scan just to make sure, again, that I'm not developing any potential skin cancer. I mean, and these are all things that, I know as people age, they tend to go to the doctor more and more, but I think it's really important to just invest in your health overall. And, like you said, you're educated enough to know something's off, maybe these conversations were taboo when our moms were younger and they weren't necessarily looking to fix those issues. But I mean, for us and for our generation, I think it's really important, right? We're living so much longer than our parents' generation was projected to live, right? So based off of that, this is like the early stages of our life. So we need to keep healthy and understand what's going to do that for us. And if it's things like hormone replacement therapy, do the things you need to do, educate yourself, be confident in those decisions. I think that's great.
Yeah. And going back to the time thing, I mean, you have a little more time. So
right. Go see every doctor you want.
So if you're feeling like, there's a little bit more time to explore that. And I'm really grateful because I know that there are women out there that search long and hard to figure out what's going on for them. And I was pretty fortunate that it took about 2 years, but I feel like I hear people that go through their entire 40s trying to figure out what's going on with them and how some doctors aren't always as receptive to what the patient is describing and kind of like blow it off as just being, oh yeah, it's just hormones or you're fine, or maybe it's anxiety. I was prescribed anxiety medication first. I was told that, that's why I was getting up at night. It was anxiety and I was feeling anxiety and I know that. And I'm obviously a proponent of like mental health and everything. And I hadn't gone on anxiety medication before that. So I sort of did that. I was like, all right, well, maybe it'll help me sleep, because the biggest thing was my sleep. I mean, not being able to sleep
Right.
is like torture.
You can't function
Torture.
the next
You can't
day
function.
in any aspect of your life.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that, and I won't say it's like completely cured. I still have moments where I experience like insomnia, but it's nowhere near what it was. I remember I went to the gynecologist and I was like, if there's one symptom you can fix, I need to be able to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, this is horrible. Now I'm on this anxiety medication, and that too might have contributed to some weight gain. Like, that's a side effect. So just so much that, it wasn't anxiety. I mean, it was partly anxiety, but it was a result of my hormones
Right.
that was causing that imbalance, that was giving me like an anxious feeling.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's just so much to it. And I feel like, if you are experiencing those symptoms at 40, or you're seeing some of those shifts, and it was interesting, my sister's going to be 40, and it was like almost like clockwork. She got a rash and she called me and she was like, no, it's happening. And
The
I'm
rash.
like, the rash. She called me and I was like, oh my gosh, I can tell you, I have this knowledge now. I can be like, I know exactly what that is. And she's like, I'm only 39. It can't be happening. I'm like, no, but this is,
this is it.
just to be aware, this is it. Just to be aware. Like,
You're crossing that bridge.
Right.
You're almost at the peak.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's really funny because I too, and again, these are things that people just don't talk about, and I don't know why. Like, I too will, get hot flashes, and I think to myself, I'm too young for this, right? And everybody says that. Everyone's like, no, you're too young to be in perimenopause, but I don't think so, because it really sounds like, most people are experiencing that earlier
It's
than...
usually between like 40 and 45.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 42, so I feel like that's like fairly young. Like, the doctor said it's fairly young, but because I'm healthy,
Right.
and I was having these constant procedures to kind of address some of the hormone imbalance stuff, it was obvious what it was. And she was just like, we can't keep putting you under for the same thing and not treat problem, So I feel like it's worth just exploring and finding providers that are open. That's huge, because I feel like there are a lot of providers that are just not so open or knowledgeable in that area. So it was a game changer. So I think, there's hope if you are experiencing some of those symptoms and you're not sure what to do, or even if you're in, menopause, because it's not that far away, and it's something that I think people talk about with a lot of shame. And it's, it's just another part of the process here. I feel like so much of, I saw some video that was like all the hormones that women go through versus men. And it's like men just have, you turn 13 and you go through your little things.
Right.
It's like women
that's
are like, and that's it. Women are like ups and downs your entire life practically.
Yeah.
So it's so important that you're informed, that you know how to like take care of yourself, what you may need to kind of seek out, and what that journey looks like, I feel like, is a huge piece. And there's hope on the other side of it. So
yeah, I love that. You know what? And I love that you can just take control in your 40s, right? Like, take control of your health, take control of everything. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be whoever you want. You can start your business. You can be the very best version of yourself from a health standpoint, from a mother standpoint, from a wife standpoint. Invest a little more time in all of those areas because you have more time.
Yeah, reclaim yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
That's so great. Well, cheers to us.
Cheers.
Cheers to 40. I hope we feel this way
beyond.
about 50. We'll come
do a
back.
whole
We'll come
nother
back in a couple of
episode.
years. Yeah, to talk about that. Thanks for tuning in today.
Please like and subscribe to our social media channels at Champagne Confidential Podcast.